Okay, Man of Steel.
That one I have in my honorable mentions.
I was just saying it was going to be a bad one.
No. Man of Steel is in my honorable mentions, so I will knock that out. But please, tell me why you think Man of Steel
I've never been the biggest Superman
underrated.
Fan. I've never been the biggest Superman fan, but I've seen all of them but 4. I've never saw Quest for Peace, which I've heard is like one of the worst Superman movies ever.
I've seen 3 and 4. I've seen every Superman movie.
I've seen 3.
Yeah.
I saw it in the movie theater. I saw 2. My favorite.
I have all 4 films on one DVD.
Oh really? So, I need to get 1 and 2 at least. Yeah. Well, I have 1, and I have the original Christopher Reeve one, which I loved, and I like the set, but I like Superman 2 better.
Do you have the Superman 2, the
Richard Donner cut?
cut?
No, I want to get both.
Okay, that's the better one.
Okay, so I do want to get those, and I do love those from being a kid. You know, Superman 2 was on HBO all the time when I was a kid. Showtime, and I used to watch it all the time, and I loved it. But I never was big into Superman 3, and I didn't see Superman 4. I saw Superman Returns. A lot of people didn't like that one that much, but because I wasn't a big Superman fan, it didn't bother me.
Shall we just knock out like Superman movies in general?
We can, since we're on the subject. Yeah, why not?
Okay, well, continuing with Man of Steel.
Yeah, go ahead. You want me to? No, you go first.
Okay, well, I was just going to say, I don't think it's underrated because it just blew up the box office. I mean, it did so well.
Man of Steel?
Man of Steel. And I think the only problem that people might have had with it is it's dark, it's extremely violent, and Superman, spoiler alert, kills.
But see, I understood why he did.
I understand, too.
And that for me going into it, I went into it with just a complete open mind saying, okay, I'm just going to watch this and see what it's like. And everything about the Man of Steel, it just works for me. I love Russell Crowe in it. I love Kevin Costner in it. I love Henry Cavill as Superman. I think he's a perfect person to carry on. Much better than Brandon Roth, who I was never a huge fan of as Clark Kent. I thought he was a decent Superman, but I just wasn't a big fan of him. And I thought that Lois Lane was so much better in Man of Steel. I did not like, is it Kate Bosworth that plays her?
Kate Bosworth.
She's terrible. She was terrible. I hated her in Superman Returns because you're following up, Margot Kidder. And it's like, and for me, Margot Kidder...
Crazy ass Margot Kidder.
I know, but she was attractive back in the 70s and 80s. She wasn't bad looking. She was, but for me, she was Lois Lane.
She had spunk. Amy Adams didn't have spunk. I mean, no, Amy Adams did have spunk,
but Kate Bosworth didn't. She was just kind of boring. And I'm like, this isn't Lois Lane. Lois Lane was a shit talker, and she got in there when she was going to tell you what she was going to do. Not, and I don't know. It's like I just thought Man of Steel for me. Everything in that movie worked. I love the way they did the backstory. It's like we've seen what happens. It was sort of cool. It's like you see him about to hit Earth, and then it cuts to when he's an adult, and then you see flashbacks to when he's a kid, and you see what happened to his father, and you see
it was like broken flashbacks, where they would show different flashbacks during different times, but it wasn't confusing.
No, it made sense.
Sometimes it can be confusing when you do flashbacks not in sequential order.
Especially if you don't know, like, okay, is this now? Or is this, like, back then? Or when is this? And I thought they handled it so well, and I love the director. Okay, so Zack Snyder, I think, did a terrific job, but I've been a fan of his work since Dawn of the Dead. So I just like the look of it. I love the music. Hans Zimmer's music is fantastic. It's a terrific, carrying on from John Williams, who that score for the original Superman movie. Iconic, and even when they did Superman Returns, that's the music they used, which I thought was a terrific homage to the original films, because Superman Returns was supposed to be a sequel to the first 2 Supermans.
So here's the thing. Speaking of that, first of all, I'm going to say, hands down, Man of Steel is technically the best Superman movie ever made. Technically the best ever made. However, I enjoy watching Superman Returns more.
Okay.
Here's
That's
why.
fine, though.
No, yeah. I love Man of Steel. Every movie has its issues, but here's why I enjoy Superman Returns. I enjoy watching Superman Returns more than I do Man of Steel. And the reason being is because it is the Superman 3 that should have been.
Good point.
If you completely erase Superman 3 and Superman 4 from existence, and you put Superman Returns as Superman 3, it works.
It does.
Granted, they're using modern-day technology. They have cell phones and laptops, but the whole decor of the interiors of the buildings are all nice and Art Deco and all that. Reminds me of the old Fleischer Superman cartoons.
Yeah. And there was little touches. I did notice the actor that played his father, or his father on Earth, Pa Kent.
Yeah.
They have a picture of him. I remember seeing when he goes back to his mom's. You see a picture of him in the house, and I'm like, that's really good. details.
Yes.
Little things like that.
Little things like that, like the chewing of the pain medications in Daredevil and all that.
There's just
little
because I mean that just adds to character. It adds to, you know, we're carrying on a storyline that existed, you know, 20-something years ago at the time, because it was, I think, 25 years that they were picking up from when Superman 2 ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's little things like that I thought worked, and so I just wasn't crazy about some of the actors. I thought...
Yeah. I
Spacey
thought
was fantastic.
Kevin Spacey was amazing.
He was
Not
a
only
great
did
Lex
he, like,
Luthor.
own the role of Lex Luthor, he also brought a little bit of Gene Hackman back.
Yeah, he did.
There were some moments where you're just like, I see what you did there. I personally loved Brandon Routh. I think, and he's doing a really good job on.
Is he doing stuff?
Well, he's playing Ray Palmer, soon to be the Atom on Arrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's doing a really good job in that.
Well, good. I mean, I think he's a nice guy and everything, and there's things I liked about him, but I just...
And of course, he resembled
Christopher Reeve.
Yeah,
there's one
that's
scene
the
where
main reason why he got cast.
There's one scene where it's like it's right out of, you know, the old movies where Superman kind of flies at the camera.
Yes.
And he looks just like him.
And he does the same thing. He looks right, looks left, looks at the camera, and smiles.
And
flies away.
Yeah.
Yep. But, yeah, I personally enjoy watching Superman Returns more than Man of Steel, probably just because of the nostalgia factor.
No, and I have Superman Returns, and I have the original Superman. I just, for some reason, Man of Steel is just...
Yeah.
Man of Steel is the type of Superman movie I wanted to see, because I liked the villains. I thought Michael Shannon was fantastic as Zod. I liked him as Zod. I liked, just the fight scenes. I want to see, if I'm seeing a superhero movie, I want those slow moments, but I want it to lead to a battle. I want to see the fights. And you got two gods that are fighting. Yeah. You're going to see destruction.
Yes.
And it's like, I mean,
there's plenty of destruction in that movie.
Metropolis, they should just give up and just go. They should just head to Gotham City. That city's destroyed.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to Batman versus Superman.
I am too, but I think they're cramming too much into it. And I think
you're right. Remember I had a video a while back where I explained how I think they do it right.
Yeah.
Just have Wonder Woman and like Aquaman introduced as like ambassadors of their realms, and then like maybe I thought of some way to really introduce Cyborg, and I can't remember how I did it. But
I watched your video a while ago.
I know I've taken it down since. But if they just they slowly introduce those background characters and keep the story focused on the title Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be I'm glad that I think, like we've talked about, I think Ben Affleck will be great as Bruce Wayne. And Batman, great. I think I've seen him in the costume. I think he looks fantastic. He looks like The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller.
Especially in the armor. Getting back to the original Superman movies, Superman 3 was on my honorable mentions.
Okay,
list.
Really?
I
liked it more than I did.
Well, yeah, I don't
That's
think...
okay, though.
I don't think it's a very good movie. I think it's almost underrated just because there are some excellent moments in that movie, especially when he goes back to Smallville. And I think they have a class reunion?
Yeah.
And he goes back to Smallville, he gets back in touch with Lana Lang and all of that. So,
tool.
Yeah, but that in itself is not enough to save the movie.
No.
And Superman 4 is on one of my worst lists. There's no excuse. Christopher Reeve was apologizing for that movie up until his dying day.
Well, I heard that the special effects in it are just horrible.
They're absolutely horrible. And, spoiler alert, so they take like a string of Superman's hair, and using nuclear technology, they create like a half nuclear man, half Superman.
Isn't he called Nuclear Man or something?
Yes, he is called Nuclear Man. And if you're going to make a Superman clone, he should at least sort of look like him. This guy looks nothing like Christopher Reeve.
That's weird, because in Superman 3, I mean, I know there's the scene where Superman and Clark Kent fight, so it's like, why couldn't they?
He's like fighting himself.
Yeah, I know, but it was like, they could have done something like that, maybe just made like a darker, like Chris Reeve play,
like
I don't know, something, or just make,
Superman 4, there's no excuse for it. I will say this, I really wish that Chris Reeve had lived to see Superman Returns. He would have loved it.
I think he would have. And you get a little emotional watching it. Am I up again?
Sure, why not?
Well, no, because I mean, that was my pick, and we kind of combined them. No, but you're a guest.
Okay, if you insist. Ghost Rider movies.
Oh, good. Okay. I got two. No. I know. I have them both on my list in different areas.
Oh, I'll be darned. Okay. Yeah. Now, the first one is better than the second one, in my opinion. I hate the second one. I think, again, they set out to do what they're meant to do, and that is portray the Ghost Rider. You know, he sold his soul, he turns into the Ghost Rider, and I think Nick Cage is perfect casting because he's just crazy as shit.
I like Nick Cage, and all of a sudden he's just the butt of everybody's jokes now. And I think he does have, to be fair, he does make some shitty choices in roles, but I don't know if it's something to do with his financials or something like that. I think he's just getting work to sort of take care of his financial situation.
Possibly.
But I love the first Ghost Rider.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I
think he could be a little less Elvis-y.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like Nick Cage had this part of his personality where he could go a little, like, over the, not a little, but he could go over the top at certain moments in films, and then it just became, that's how he acts.
In the second Ghost Rider movie, when he's like interviewing, like or like investigating this one particular bad guy, and he's trying to control the spirit of vengeance from coming out, and like all of a sudden he'd be like, you'd be a little crazy too.
Yeah,
I like his portrayal.
See that I could not get through Spirit of Vengeance. I've
You didn't see the very end?
I watched it. I actually couldn't. I tried 3 times to watch that movie, and I could not.
The end is one of the best parts. Like when he's trying to get his, when Satan or Mephistopheles is trying to, get his son, on board and make him like the new Satan or whatever.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, here's Nick Cage. He's robbed of his Ghost Rider powers by this point.
Oh, okay.
And
see, I haven't seen it. So.
The kid is just like, so to his dad, he's just like, so you're saying I have the same powers as you, right? And Mephistopheles was like, yeah. And so he walks up to Nick Cage, and Nick Cage realizes what the kid's going to do. He's going to give him back his powers, and he's just like, do it! And he's just spits like the fire, like all into his mouth, and he turns back into the Ghost Rider. It was badass.
Oh, really?
It was really badass.
Yeah, because the guys that directed
the kid was a really good actor. Actually.
The guys that directed it did Crank. And that's what a lot of people said it was like. It was like Crank with Ghost Rider.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't know why it was, and I tried to watch it, but I just couldn't. I don't
know.
The
middle of the movie is a little rough.
That's where I was like, I got through the beginning. The beginning was okay.
Good. The end
this is interesting,
better.
and it's like in the middle. I'm like,
when he gets his powers back, when the kid is just like, I'm going to give you your powers back, and Nick Cage realizes he's just like, do it! It's cool. It's a cool moment in the movie. So
yeah, see, I have it on my worst, but I think that's just because I couldn't get through it. Maybe it's one I need to give a second chance.
You need to give another chance.
But I had the original as an honorable.
Okay.
The original Ghost Rider.
Okay. Sounds good.
So we're just in different areas, but we're kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay. Your turn or mine?
No, your turn.
I'm going to talk about Watchmen.
That's on my list as well.
Is that on your?
That's
favorites?
on my underrated list, and under protest. I don't think the only reason why I think it's underrated is because of the younger generation doesn't get the whole alternate universe 1980s, kind of thing.
Oh no, it was, and I think it came. I remember when it came out. It came off
and,
the heel. It came after Chris Nolan's.
So.
It came after Chris Nolan's The Dark Knight.
That's right.
And everybody, I think, thought it was going to be like that.
Yeah.
I think people thought it was going to be this dark, gritty kind of.
Oh, it was.
It is, but it encompasses that graphic novel so well.
Yes, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes long.
It's not boring though.
But it's not boring. But it has to be that long to incorporate all that stuff from the graphic novels, and it still doesn't include
everything. No,
there's like about 20% of the stuff missing, but only like 20%. But what they add in the movie, the way they do the Watchmen the movie. You don't miss that 20%.
Yeah, but all the people could talk about was the fact that Dr. Manhattan was naked. That's all people thought. Oh, blue balls. That's what everybody was saying. Oh, look at those balls. Yeah. It's like, I'm like going, that's not, it's an effect. Yeah. It's like, but that's how he is in the comics.
He's naked.
He looks exactly like that.
No shame.
And then Jackie Earle Haley as Rorschach. I mean, how can you say anything bad about that? He was fantastic.
It's too bad that superhero movies get passed over oftentimes when it comes to Oscar nominations for acting.
He should have got something.
He should have gotten at least nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Because even with the mask on, I mean, it's just like his physical, the way he carries.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about Watchmen. So if there are people out there that actually think it's underrated, you're an idiot.
And the opening is like. I'm watching this opening going...
Right off the bat,
wow.
You have this giant fight scene between the comedian and the shadowy figure we find out is Ozymandias, or whatever his name is.
Ozymandias.
Ozymandias.
Yeah.
And it's badass. All the fight scenes in the movie are badass.
Well, you feel them. They're just like... you feel when the comedian's getting his ass kicked. And you feel when, it's again, going back to... not comparing Daredevil and Watchmen, but I'm just saying they're human characters, and you feel like when there's a scene where the comedian's going to rape that one.
Oh yeah,
girl,
the first Silver Spectre.
Silver Spectre, and that scene is like, oh my god,
that's intense. It's visceral.
Yeah, and it's
And then when he gets his ass kicked,
you kind of are.
When you hear like his jaw and his cheekbone getting smacked, you feel it.
It's painful just to listen to.
It really is.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I'm gonna actually go ahead and put it out there. In my opinion, it's the best superhero movie ever made.
Wow,
in my opinion, Watchmen is the best superhero movie ever made
because it's so true to, like you said, it does change a few things, it does omit a few things, but they're minimal, and it's like it's so well done in it. And like, I have the graphic novel, I've read it.
Yeah, I
think it's just like you read it and you go, they made this movie. They could. How is it possible that they could make this movie? And the fact that it didn't get the love it should have.
Yeah.
I think it's just because it's not for kids, and a lot of people probably said, "Oh, this is a kids superhero movie," even though it's rated R.
Yeah.
It's not for kids. There needs to be. I think that based on the subject matter of the comic, staying faithful to the source material, like with 30 Days of Night, like with Punisher, like with Watchmen, you need to have those R ratings.
You do. You really do.
Not everything can be Spider-Man and Iron Man.
Or Fantastic Four. Like you said, you could sit your kid in front of the TV for Fantastic Four. Can't do that with Watchmen.
No.
Can't do it.
No.
But yeah, Watchmen is not only, I think, one of the best superhero movie ever made. It's one of my favorite movies, period. Great movie.
Okay.
See here, I guess it's my turn.
Yeah.
Okay, one movie that I think is overrated, superhero comic book movie, X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Now this is honorable mentions? Or?
No, I think it's underrated.
I actually really... so X-Men, so the first one they did, not the Wolverine. It was the first one.
The Wolverine is a great movie.
Yeah.
X-Men Origins Wolverine, I think, is underrated. It messes up... It's unforgivable that they totally screwed up Deadpool. That's unforgivable.
That's what everybody is pissed about in that movie.
Other than that, I enjoy it quite a lot, and I'll tell you why. Because if you look at the actual X-Men movie franchise, and you put it at the beginning, you have X-Men Origins Wolverine, then you have X-Men, X2, X-Men The Last Stand, and then The Wolverine. It all fits in the same timeline.
Yeah.
It is, consistent. And then you try to fit in X-Men First Class, it doesn't work because do you know why X-Men First Class, actually the continuity was off?
You mean in terms of like how Xavier got paralyzed and everything?
Well, yeah, but obviously we know continuity was off in general, but do you know during the filmmaking process why?
No.
It's because it wasn't originally supposed to be X-Men First Class.
Oh.
It was originally supposed to be X-Men Origins Magneto.
Oh.
And those scenes where he's in the concentration camp...
Well, that was perfect, wasn't it?
Well,
that was pretty close.
But that scene and the scene where he's being trained by Sebastian Shaw at like age 10 or something like that, and he watches his mother die in front of him.
Yeah.
Those were originally filmed to be in X-Men Origins Magneto.
So I remember them mentioning that after they did the Wolverine, they were going to, or the X-Men Origins Wolverine, they were going to do Magneto.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what those scenes from X-Men First Class was supposed to be in. So what they did was they were like, I don't think people are going to come out to see an origin story about
Magneto.
A villain.
Yeah.
They would have.
They would
anyway.
Because Magneto's awesome.
He is badass.
Yeah, especially Michael Fassbender.
Yes.
Yes.
So they changed the script around and turned it into X-Men First Class, but included those scenes in X-Men First Class because they had already shot it. Why not use it?
Yeah.
But when they rewrote it to be X-Men First Class, they screwed up the continuity with the original X-Men trilogy and X-Men Origins Wolverine, and they're like, well, how are we going to fix it? Days of Future Past, time travel! But now you have like 3 different X-Men universes.
Timelines, because they're all you have the first...
You have the original, like I said, X-Men Origins Wolverine all the way through the Wolverine. Then you have X-Men First Class, and then you have the X-Men Days of Future Past from the 1970s on.
Yeah.
That's its own timeline because that incorporates stuff from First Class as well as stuff from the... Yeah. So you've got so from now on, the next one, X-Men Apocalypse, Age of Apocalypse...
is going to be in that...
That's going to have to be in the same timeline as what happened after Mystique decided not to kill Trask.
Yeah. That's what's going to happen because they said that pretty much... The old one. So X-Men... So, in terms of time, X-Men Origins Wolverine through the Wolverine with X-Men, X2, and X3. That's timeline's done. That timeline's done. They completely changed it.
And as a matter of fact, the very end of Days of Future Past, where Wolverine wakes up,
and
you see characters that are dead, that's obviously part of the original trilogy timeline, but the rest of the movie isn't.
Yeah.
So it's a little convoluted, but once you figure it out. But anyway, X-Men Origins Wolverine, I think, is underrated. I mean, we got to see the Weapon X program.
That was cool.
That was cool. Yeah. We got to see, the team. I forget, what was the team called in the comic books?
I can't remember. I was never.
Or were they all part of the Weapon X program?
I think they were, but
I
wasn't like.
But there might have been a separate code name for them, like for whatever the Canadian Army was. But I love the origin story when he was a boy. Mm-hmm. I love how during the opening credits where they show them in every single American war.
Oh, that was great.
That was great. I like
Liev Schreiber.
Liev Schreiber's good. I wish he was a little more bestial looking though.
Yeah, he just kind of looked like he didn't shave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was about it.
Yeah.
Because I really liked, because Tyler Mane played him in the original X-Men. Yes. I liked him because he looked like Sabretooth.
He did.
Yeah.
Yes, I like the plot. I like the fact that you get the hints of like the Cyclops' beginning and being drafted
that
into.
Was cool.
As a matter of fact, when they were all like in the same looking outfits, it almost reminded me of like the New Mutants.
Oh, okay.
Because they all wore the same costume outfits, as well. So yeah, I just think it's a little underrated because it does fit nicely continuity-wise in the actual X-Men movies all the way down through the Wolverine.
Mm-hmm. And I like the Wolverine too. I was surprised how much I liked it.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Well, all of the stories when Logan was in Japan in the comics always kick ass. So.
Yeah, he did a great. I mean, I really can't see anybody else playing Wolverine.
It's going to be tough to recast.
I know because he's getting up there, and he's not old, but he's
still in great shape.
Oh my god,
he's got to be like at least 47.
Yeah, he's about that. Yeah,
right around there. So yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine. Did you bring that up or did I? I did.
You did.
Your turn.
The Incredible Hulk.
Oh yes, that's not on my list, but I can see why somebody might think it's underrated.
I hated Ang Lee's Hulk. To be fair, I understood like what he was going for. There's some great visuals. I did like the comic book panels. I thought there was some things that were really cool. I thought they were overused a little bit.
Yeah.
But there was nothing in that film that just made me go, wow, this is the Hulk. This is great. This is what I've been waiting to see. Because I grew up on the Lou Ferrigno, Bill Bixby television series. I absolutely love that series to this day. I know it's dated, but
I have a couple of the TV movies.
Oh, like Trial of the Incredible Hulk and the Incredible Hulk Returns.
Yeah, the one where he meets Thor, the one where he meets Daredevil.
Yeah,
I have those on DVD.
And some of them aren't the best, but I always loved Bill Bixby, and I've always loved Lou Ferrigno. And I'm glad that Lou Ferrigno is still doing the voice of the Hulk in the Avengers, and he did it in the Incredible Hulk, and he played a security guard in the Ang Lee's Hulk. Yeah, and then even in the Incredible Hulk, he played the security guard again too. I thought it was great, but the Incredible Hulk it encompassed what I loved about the comics growing up and the television show.
Yes,
very well, and I think it had a lot to do with Edward Norton. I really loved Edward Norton as Banner. I really I love Mark Ruffalo. I think he's fantastic in the Avengers, and I'm anxious to see where they'll go. I hope they'll do another solo Hulk movie, but I was heartbroken that Ed Norton could not continue playing that part in the Avengers, and it was the falling out he had with Marvel Studios, the falling out he had with Louis Leterrier, who directed the film. I think it's a shame because he brought so much heart to that role.
When he was running away from his coworkers,
yes,
and as well as the army agents, he was running away from all of them before he
scene.
You really felt for him. Like every time he checked his pulse, you were just like, oh, don't turn into
because you would see it start to go up, and you're just like going, but you wanted to turn, but you don't.
You wanted to turn, but you don't because you care about it. That's the one
thing I loved about it is that you cared about him. I didn't care about Eric Bana as Banner at all in Ang Lee's Hulk. I didn't like him. The only person in Ang Lee's Hulk that I thought was great was Sam Elliott. He was perfect as Thunderbolt Ross, and I thought William Hurt wasn't as good in the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, I would have liked to see Sam Elliott.
I wish they could have
carried
Sam Elliott over because I love Sam Elliott.
Incredible Hulk,
But yeah, the Incredible Hulk is my favorite. I mean, before Guardians of the Galaxy, it was my favorite Marvel movie.
Wow, yeah, it's up there for me.
Yeah, I know, but some people think. I mean, I'm mad that they've done 3 Iron Mans, 2 Thors, 2 Captain America. But Captain America: The Winter Soldier was fantastic. But
amazing.
I'm mad that they haven't done another Hulk.
One other great thing about the Incredible Hulk is that they didn't rush too many villains in.
No,
and they stretched out the whole thing with Abomination.
Tim Roth, yeah.
But you also kind of had Mr. Blue, who obviously
the leader
becomes the leader.
Yeah.
So you had that. That was a nice little Easter egg.
But it was kind of like, and you didn't see him almost become the leader until almost the very end.
Yeah.
Where
but you can tell as soon as he had like all the blood vials there that he's not the best of guys.
No.
He's kind of like he's an unwitting bad guy.
And I love that they played the theme from the show.
Yes.
At one scene where he's walking back after the first time he turns into the Hulk, you hear that piano, and I'm like, I love this movie because it was like it. For me, it was faithful. It was respectful of what came before. Whereas I felt Ang Lee was just trying to. I've never been a big fan of the director, and I think I just didn't buy it. I didn't like any of the actors.
But one thing I was going to say about Incredible Hulk, the very end, where he's practicing trying to learn control over it.
Yeah.
And you notice he's in a cabin in the Canadian Rockies.
Wolverine.
I'm wondering if that's what they were alluding to, whether or not they were going to have Wolverine versus Hulk.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Well, they have. I mean, the Avengers, the new Avengers movie. I want to see the Hulkbuster Iron Man fight the Hulk.
That's going to be
just every time I see it, I'm like, is it me yet?
I know.
Please.
Counting down the hours. No, but yeah, I agree. Yeah, The Incredible Hulk, fabulous movie.